Power Rangers RPM is my favorite entry in the Power Rangers franchise. I know those in the know will be like, no shit, a lot of people love this season, but I feel like that love can be showcased in a very shallow or surface level way at times. Especially when that praise is just to diss the modern seasons. Critique the modern seasons all you want, but I think the fellas wishing Power Rangers can go back to RPM are forgetting that the circumstances of making the show were very special and actual hell for nearly everyone involved. It is a miracle that the final product got finished with a sense of cohesion to it. I'll detail some of the production messes as we go along, but for now, let me take you for a ride through the amazing black sheep of the Power Rangers franchise, Power Rangers RPM. Episode 1 of RPM is a perfect introduction to this show. It establishes very quickly and frantically that most of humanity has been eradicated by a computer virus called Vengex, and the domed city of Corinth is the final bastion for humanity. The bulk of the episode follows what are basically our two main characters as they make their way through the wasteland of the outside world to get to Corinth. You have the mysterious, brooding man on a mission, Dylan, who is aggressive on the outside but has hidden gentle kindness to him, and Ziggy, a more comedic character who can be cowardly but has a heroic spirit to him, always wanting to push through his cowardliness to help someone in need. These two bros have great chemistry, and it's super endearing to see them banter and get chased by Vengex soldiers all throughout the episode. As for the RPM Rangers, they don't show up until the very end of the episode as a beacon of hope. This shows both our bros and the audience that just because we're in a new post-apocalypse setting doesn't mean that our colorful heroes are going to conform to this new setting. The show is still Power Rangers at the end of the day, awesome fight scenes and charming chatter included. Now that we have our premise and have introduced the characters that become the Black and Green Rangers of Dylan and Ziggy respectively, let's talk about the other major characters RPM has. Scott, aka RPM Red, doesn't get as much focus as other Red Rangers in the franchise, but he's still one of the best for his snarky attitude that plays off entertainingly with other characters and a strong sense of justice. There's a great moment in episode 20, Heroes Among Us, where Colonel Truman wants to give Scott a medal, but Scott declines because the actions that led him to be medal-worthy by Truman put others in danger, so he doesn't feel like he's earned it properly. Scott doesn't care about material gain, he just wants to do the right thing. Flynn, aka RPM Blue, is one of my favorite Blue Rangers. He tries to help the world in many ways before due to his heroic passions, but none of them clicked until he was forced to take a stand against the Vengex threat. I find that really relatable as not everyone finds exactly what they want to do in life even when they approach adulthood. You still might have a driving force and vague idea of what you want to do, but you're not going to find exactly what you want to do right away. And Flynn showcases that beautifully. Summer, aka RPM Yellow, is who I find to be the weakest character in the show. She's far from bad, but I found her rich girl to kind girl subplot one of the least interesting backstories the show provided, and most of her development after that is just her relationship teasing with Dylan, which I'm not a fan of. She's fine, she works, she just doesn't stand out to me compared to the bigger personality she interacts with. As for the mentor character of the season, Dr. K, she's one of the most unique mentors in the franchise. She's quite younger from the rest of the cast and has been isolated from the larger worlds for so long that she has difficulty interacting and connecting with new people. She also plays a huge part into the overall backstory of the show, but I'm gonna keep that a secret just in case you haven't seen it yet, but let it be known it's really tragic but makes for some compelling as hell drama. Speaking of drama, while a lot of people love RPM for its quote-unquote mature elements, I think one of the strongest strengths of RPM is its comedy, which makes sense as the Sentai I was adapting, Engine Sentai Go Onjur, had a comedic edge to it. There are a couple fourth-wall breaking meta jokes about the Zords and suits that the fanbase has driven into the ground on social media, but I still like these in the greater context of the show, as the characters ultimately embrace these elements to defeat the bad guys, which I see as the show wearing its Sentai roots on its sleeve. Even if a lot of Power Rangers fans prop RPM as a more serious show than the rest of the franchise, I think both the Sentai and PR adaptation in this case are equally goofy, just in different ways. And when I say goofy, I don't mean that in a derogatory fashion, as I love when Power Rangers or Sentai does silly stuff and fully embraces it with its whole heart. Back to the characters, around episode 14, our 6 Rangers get introduced, Gemma and Gemma, the Gold and Silver RPM Rangers. They're an excitable duo of siblings that befriended Dr. K during their time in isolation at Alphabet Soup, and can be seen as a subversion of the serious 6 Ranger trope, as they're very happy to be here and blow stuff up. Now, me and a couple of other Power Rangers fans on the autism spectrum have noticed that Gemma and Gemma's mannerisms could be seen of autistic coding, and I did relate to a lot of moments these two had on my most recent rewatch. Their overwhelming empathy to Dr. K and the rest of the RPM team, to them expressing their feelings on others bluntly, just not in a malicious way. Unfortunately, after the establishment arc of Gem and Gemma was done, Eddie Gazillion, the show's new producer and head writer who helped influence the direction of RPM, was fired for apparently going over budget multiple times, and was replaced with Chip Lynn for the last 10 episodes of RPM. Before I head into my thoughts on Chip Lynn's tenure on the show, I just want to appreciate Eddie Gazillion. Eddie is probably the closest thing the Power Rangers creative team has had to a distinctive vision in the writer's room during the Disney era, or even ever. He is one of the only Power Rangers writers I dare compare to a Toei Tokusatsu writer like Toshiki Inoue or Yasuko Kobayashi because of how unique his sensibilities to Power Rangers were and how you can really feel his loss as RPM continues. He truly shaped RPM into what it was, and I would have loved to see his original ending titled Ranger Black, where Dylan would have become the final Vengeance host, which I feel had a lot of potential to be a better cap-off to his arc than what we actually got in the proper show. Now let's talk about Chip Lynn. He was a big guy in the production side of Power Rangers from Turbo to Time Force, and later came back to helm the final few Neo Saban shows. The man's a fine writer, he's done great work throughout the franchise, and I even enjoyed the first few RPM episodes done under his tenure, like Heroes Among Us, Not So Simple. Hell, I even enjoyed And Action, the silly behind-the-scenes special they made because they wanted to save on budget. However, episodes like Dome Dolls, Key to the Past, and Onward, while not being terrible episodes in the grand scheme of the Power Rangers franchise, feel like a huge step down for RPM. Characters like Ziggy started to become more flanderized as he was relegated to lame jokes with no nuances that were shown previously, and Dylan becoming a plank of wood, losing any edge or charisma he had previously. There's still a lot of good bits in Chip Lynn's time of the show, and I do think the final few episodes ramp up in quality, but still feels like a noticeable step back in creativity than what the Eddie episodes provided. I do understand why this happened, though. I mean, Chip Lynn was basically hired to make sure the show gets done rather than being a valuable creative voice, but still kinda stings after the amazing quality Eddie and his team showed. Overall, despite the flanderization of some characters towards the end, despite the ideas that never were, despite the fanbase misunderstanding that the show isn't good because it's dark, it's good because it balances comedy and character drama, I love Power Rangers RPM so much, and I can confidently call it my favorite season of the franchise. The insane stakes, the witty sense of humor, the big personalities, it just hits different while still being Power Rangers to its core, from the optimism for a better tomorrow to the super fun action scenes. And now it's all on YouTube along with every season before it for everyone to enjoy. So set aside a couple of days and re-experience the badass black sheep that is Power Rangers RPM.